So we've been battling with load shedding for it's over a decade, but many times over the decade, it's you can manage, and then the last few months has just been ridiculous, right? And it has an impact not just in terms of your lifestyle, but in terms of the economy, in terms of safety and security, basically just everything that you do in your life 24/7, right? So that's load shedding. Now, what about water shedding? Well, I'll tell you what, it's not been isolated. It's now becoming part of the norm. There's been water shortages in the entire province of Gauteng, certain parts of Gauteng, but in particular with our interest being focused on the city of Johannesburg. And there's been a water shortages in that city, and more pronounced in some parts of the city, particularly the southern parts of Johannesburg. But yeah, I live in the northern parts, so I can tell you now, we're also having these interruptions, and you just pray when you wake up in the morning, and you literally pray that you actually have water, because it trickles and sometimes it's a bit better, and then you say, shukran, okay, I'm fine, right? Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about, what I call water shedding. I've got two guests, the mayor of the city of Johannesburg, that's the Mayor Abubakar Thapelo Ahmed, with us, as well as the Joburg Waters MD, right? And that's Ntshavheni Mukwevho. So both of you, thank you for your time. Mayor Ahmed, thanks for your time. This is the first time we're chatting since you're the mayor. Assalamu alaikum. You need to unmute, yeah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you, Mr. Ashraf Garba?
I'm very good, and I trust the Ramadan's going well. It's a huge balancing act between work and Ramadan at the best of times, being the mayor, and then normal work and Ramadan. I don't know how. Maybe we'll talk about that some other time. So appreciate you coming on as well. Thank you.
We appreciate the opportunity also to communicate with the residents. Thank you so much.
Well, I think communication is particularly important. Maybe therefore also bringing the MD of Joburg Water, Ntshavheni Mukwevho. Appreciate your time. Good morning.
Good morning, Ashraf, and thank you very much for the opportunity. And good morning to your viewers and listeners as well.
Thank you so much. Let me start that with the mayor, Mayor Abubakar Thapelo Ahmed. So, does Johannesburg, and we'll focus on Johannesburg, does Johannesburg have a water crisis? And if the answer to that is yes, then how pronounced is that water crisis? If we say 10 is the absolute worst case scenario, where are we?
Look, of course, yes, we have a water crisis, but the crisis emanates from the supplier, which is rainwater, because we are the client to rainwater. We buy the water from rainwater. So in terms of our internal processes, I think to a certain degree, we are managing the crisis. But because we are interdependent to the rainwater, then it poses more threat to the supply that we need to give to the residents. So this is where we are as the city of Johannesburg and Joburg Water. Okay. It is unfortunate.
Right, but wait, I want to just clear this up. So look, we'll talk about the causes just now, right? Firstly, I just want to determine the issue.
Yeah.
So we have a water crisis. How pronounced is this
correct.
water crisis? Yeah.
Yes, of course, we have a water crisis in the city. Remember, we are service providers to the residents as Joburg Water, and as the implementing sphere of government, the residents knows this sphere of government, which is the city of Johannesburg. So you are not contracted to the rainwater. We are the ones who are contracted to rainwater as the client to rainwater, which causes the problem for city of Johannesburg. As you've alluded in your opening remarks, that the problem is not only in the city of Johannesburg, but it is across the province. So it is clear that the major challenge is not with us. The major challenge is with the rainwater.
Okay, just the last thing for the moment. How big is this crisis? I love using sporting analogies. If a team is losing 5-0, we say they're getting a hiding. So in sporting terms, how big is this crisis?
No, we have a huge crisis. Joburg Water has deployed water tanks in the interim so that it can assist about 28 water tanks that are roving. around the communities that are affected. We've also deployed stationary JoJo tanks. But however, where we can bypass the system and ensure that we stabilize the capacity of our reservoirs, or we stabilize the capacity of the towers that has to store the water, technically, I think Joburg Water will be in the position to analyze and give you a proper context on how is it done for us to restore water so that we can serve our residents. This is why you see, or you'd realize that with us, the water goes on and off. It doesn't shed for 2 days or 3 days. It will go on and then it will go off for a certain period of time, and then the Joburg Water technicians will make sure that we preserve the water, and then it will go off depending on the consumption of that area.
Okay. Now, your line's not that great. So what we're going to do, we're going to try and drop your visuals just so that we can hopefully get the sound clearer, because there could be a connection problem. So I'm going to put you on pause, Mayor Ahmed, and we'll drop your visuals and then get back to it. But in the meantime, I think it's a necessary segue. So he hasn't given us how much out of 10. The mayor hasn't said, in sporting terms, are we losing 5-0 or whatever out of the water issues. Perhaps I'm going to put the same thing to the MD of Joburg Water, Ntshavheni Mukwevho. So you tell me, give us a number. How big is the water crisis? I'm saying out of 10. If 10 is the absolute disaster.
Okay. Thanks, Ashraf. What I'm going to do, I'm going to explain to you the situation so that at the end of this response, I'm sure you can be able to put the number.
But maybe start with the number, then explain why we have the number, why it is. Maybe that's the clearer way.
Yeah. Let me give context as well. So we, as the mayor have explained, we get our water from rainwater. So we have about 100 intake points in the city. These are the supply system. And of course, out of those 100 supply system, there are others that have been affected, but not for long. It could be for a day, for 2 days, in the last 3 months. But there are two systems which I really just want to bring to attention and the viewers, which really have been problematic. This is the system, what we call it commando system, is where we have got our Brixton, our Crosby, our Haskell reservoirs. And also, the second one is the Crown Garden system. This is where we have got a reservoir and tower complexes that supply areas like Winchester Hill, Robert Shem, Ridgeway, and so on. So if you look at all the 100 systems, those two systems are the one really that have been hit hard, in the sense that they are, especially the high-lying area within those systems, where this is the Jan Hofmeyer as well as the Robert Shem, which, beside the days that you'll find that, like last week in Crown Gardens, we could not supply for the entire Crown Gardens for about 3 days, but people of Robert Shem, they have been affected for about 3 weeks or so, simply because they are on the high-lying area. So in terms of the number, the issue is it depends. But if one is zooming into the two systems that have been hit hard, indeed, the situation has been very bad for those two systems.
Okay, so what is the cause of that? I mean, why has the city been hit so hard, and why has those two areas in particular been hit harder than others?
Okay. Yeah. So if we look at the background, and this is what the mayor tried to address as well with MMC and myself on Sunday at the media briefing. We really believe that was important that we go back to the history, and really, as much as we release a number of media statements, really we try and give as much details to the residents so that everybody understand the root cause. Let's go back since January and see what has happened. There have been about 15 incidents that has happened since January. And those incidents are incidents that have happened mainly, and I'm saying mainly because in those 15, there was one incident that happened in our own infrastructure, which I'll come to it, but mainly those 15 incidents happened on our back supply infrastructure, which is rainwater. The most of them, 90% of those 15 incidents are mainly issues of power failure. That has happened at the Inval mainly. There was one that happened in Ekenhof, Inval, whereby you find that because of the power failure that has happened, it ended up affecting their ability to produce water it end up affecting their ability to pump water up to Johannesburg, because as you know, we are higher in Johannesburg. And then the second issue is in that period, in the last 3 months as well, there has been vandalism that happened. And unfortunately, these, as you may know, that, I mean, the population of Gauteng, because this is where the bulk supply really focuses on, not only city of Johannesburg. So they've got these massive pipelines that runs from a Val coming all the way up to Johannesburg, going all the way to Tshwane. There was a vandalism. The first one happened around Ekurhuleni in one of their pipeline. And the second one happened last week, Tuesday, when there were 3 vandalism that happened in one day in 3 different spots of their line around Mid-Val. So those also contributed negatively, because whenever this vandalism happen, they end up putting, of course, they have to do that, put all the lines of service so that they can be able to attend to whatever the problem is. And in fact, if I may add, the last week incident, that's the one that even caused bigger problem for us, because we ended up losing the Crown Gardens. I'm sure you've heard that there were bigger problem around the south of Johannesburg, people not having water, simply because that vandalism that happened, which they were only able to finish the repair of that line on Thursday night. So there's now combination issues of power failure, issues of vandalism that has happened in the last 3 months that really affected the ability.
Power failure, vandalism, and maybe a lot more. Let's. But here's a thought as we get to a break. There's a sense that whatever the causes are, vandalism, power failure, poor infrastructure, whether there's also corruption. I'm not saying there is. I'm just saying all those things, right? What it does, it renders the citizens of the city of Johannesburg absolutely helpless. I'm trying to think of a picture of, someone being out in the jungle and they're in the car and they see lions in the distance, and they then are told to get out of the car, and the car moves away and they see a lion 100 meters away, and it's like, you know what, fend for yourself. There's a sense of absolute helplessness that the citizens of Johannesburg has to face. And the question is that A, fair, and B, is that acceptable? I'll get my thoughts from both of you right after this.
Salam Media, your spiritual companion this Ramadan.
This Ramadan, spread the love with Sunshine D margarine, the perfect addition to your seri table for spreading, baking, and cooking. Sunshine D is rich in essential vitamin A, E, and D, and is the tastiest way to get their day or night started. Sunshine D. Tastes nice, no lies.
World-class financial services only at Sapphire Global, your financial partner. If you are looking for Islamic, Sharia, and ethical financial products, look no further. Sapphire Global offers a wide range of financial service offerings, from short-term to life and investments. A full-service center with all financial requirements under one brand. Our highly skilled and experienced consultants are ready to help protect your financial future. Contact us on 041 001 0184 or visit our website on www.sapphireglobalfs.com. Sapphire Global is an authorized financial services provider.
When you give zakah, a powerful chain of events is set into motion, providing life-saving food, care, and financial support, delivering kindness and hope to those desperately in need. That's the power of zakah. This Ramadan, give your zakah with Islamic Relief.
Are you looking for a cross-border road transport company that is committed in achieving high safety standards, who is fast and efficient, and also excellent customer service? Gardi Global specializes in cross-border transport from South Africa to Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Zambia, and Malawi. Gardi Global, situated at 10 Daniel Road, Benrose, Johannesburg. For inquiries, contact our trained staff on 011 614 3108 or email info@gardiglobal.co.za. Safe long haul into Africa is our business. Gardi Global Transport.
Abu Hurairah narrated that he heard the Prophet Muhammad, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, say, in black seed there is a healing for every disease except death. This Ramadan, experience the health benefits of this ancient blessed seed by using the Tib black seed range. Black seed assists the body to boost immunity, regulate blood sugar levels, reduce inflammation, and act as a potent antioxidant. Experience a holistic approach to health by introducing the Tib black seed range into your Ramadan routine. Available in capsules, pure cold-pressed oil, and a vapor rub. Trust Tib Health Sciences for quality black seed products. For more information, visit blackseed.co.za. Available at leading pharmacies.
You are listening to Salam Media live from our headquarters in South Africa. This is Salam Media, keeping you company this Ramadan.
Right, let's continue talking about what we call water shedding. We've got two guests, the MD of Joburg Water, and that's Ntshavheni Mukwevho, together with the mayor of the city of Joburg, Mayor Abu Bakr Thapelo Ahmed, with us. And we're talking about a real big issue that affects the entire city, but in particular two areas highlighted, the Brixton Crosby area and the surrounds there, and then those in the Joburg South area, around the Crown Gardens area. We'll get to the mayor in just a moment. A question that I put to the MD of Joburg Water, Ntshavheni Mukwevho, just before the break was, there's a sense of absolute helplessness. I mean, Ntshavheni, do you agree with that? I mean, that's a clear thing to me. There's a sense of helplessness and absolute desperation from the citizens. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, and we really do understand, Ashraf, simply because, especially if you look at those residents that reside in Jan Hofmeyer, those residents that reside in Robertsham, because indeed it is not a good thing at all where you won't have continuous water supply for about 3 weeks or so, and we really understand their frustration. But I must indicate also that in terms of how we're responding, in terms of some of the measures, we were able, of course, through our engagement with the bulk supplier, be able really to indicate what needs to happen so that we can be able to bring those systems back. And since Friday, in fact, regarding the south of Johannesburg, after they've repaired the burst that happened, they were able to start pumping 200 megaliters, which is what is required on that particular system. And I must indicate that we started supplying the larger area on Saturday. And I must also indicate that yesterday we were able to supply even in Robertsham. And as of this morning, when we do assessment for Crown Gardens, the system is back to normal. And I had also spoken to 2 customers myself, who indicated to me that indeed the water is back from yesterday and the pressure is back normally. So as things stand for south of Johannesburg, the issue has been resolved now, in terms of making sure that everybody, including Robertsham, because this is where really residents are frustrated that they have a normal supply. So on the issue,
yeah, carry on, go ahead.
Yes, on the issue around the Hasteel Reservoir, which supplies the Jan Hofmeyer, because that's where we still have a challenge. And but even though day on day we see progress, but we are not yet at the stage where we can say we are done in terms of restoring the system fully. Because when we say the system is restored fully, it's when we don't have to close it during the night so that people can get water around the clock. It's when people have got sufficient pressure, all of them. So there's a number of work that we're doing, including the issue of making sure that we are linking that particular zone with the North Cliff zone, because North Cliff zone has sufficient supply. And we will be finalizing the issue of appointing the emergency contractor today, who will be assisting us with the work that will be happening in the next week or so that we can be able to assist by moving water from the North Cliff zone into that particular zone. But above that, there's some other work that our own team are doing around Jan Hofmeyer itself, where we'll be linking certain pipelines so that we can be able to see how we can boost the pressure in that particular area. And we do this so that our interim measure must not only be dependent on the water tankers, because residents cannot be on the water tanker forever. Hence, we are doing all this as an interim measure. And later on, I can be able to share with you some of the long-term plans.
Okay, so let's just get this, because you said you'll give me a number. So in terms of the entire city, what out of 10 is the crisis for the entire city? What out of 10 is the crisis for Joburg South and that Jan Hofmeyr area you referred to?
It's a very difficult question.
Well, you said you will. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very difficult question. And I thought after I've given you the context, you'll be able to rate us. Indeed, for the Robert Shem, for the commando system, especially looking at the Hestel Reservoir, it is indeed very serious. And hence we've really been working around the clock to make sure that we
Okay,
really...
but like what? 10 out of 10 serious, 8 out of 10? Is it like,
if you are looking specifically, it depends. If you are looking at the entire zone for Crown Gardens, yes, there are those that are getting water. As the mayor said, sometimes it doesn't mean it's continuous. There are those that won't get continuous, but there are those that get intermittent supply. I would say the situation is about 7, because it's quite serious.
Okay. 7 out of 10. I mean, I got that.
Yeah.
All right. We'll pick up on other things from yourself in terms of what's the way forward in a moment. Let me bring in the mayor once again, the mayor Abubakar Thapelo Ahmed. So hopefully a better line. I think we've just we've dropped the visuals to get to hear you clearer, right? I mean, you've heard some of the comments, right? The part that I said before the break was like, whatever the causes are, and whether they are, whether it's a case of a water shortage because of climate change, whether it's vandalism, whether it's because of power shortages with electricity, whatever the reasons are, for a city the size of Johannesburg, that doesn't go well with the citizens, because the citizens need to go on and live their lives every single day. It's like telling a student they can't write there, don't study for your exam today because there's no lights. They have to make a plan somewhere or the other. Now, and this is to you directly, Mr. Mayor. How do you respond, from citizens who feel absolutely helpless, totally let down, disgruntled, angry, furious, irritated, and so many other words I'm not even going to use?
Thank you, Mr. Garda. Let me also reiterate that as Joburg Water, we've put all the measures so that we can arrest the situation. But let me remind you that this issue of water outage doesn't start now. It has been there for the past couple of months, or above a year. But however, and it is unfortunate from where I am that the areas that are affected by water outage, the councillors in those areas, they using the plight of the residents to play cheap politics. And out of all the mayors, I think two mayors, the previous mayor and when we were in government for 21 days, none of those mayors were there with the people physically and trying to intervene.
Okay, let me understand this. When you say they're using, but when you say they're using the situation for cheap politics,
we make sure that we visit those areas. So much so that in some of the areas, personally, I was assisting to carry the water bucket.
Yeah. But I mean, with respect, Mayor Ahmed, let me just say this.
It's unfair for the residents to even paint a picture that we do not care about them and they are frustrated. But we understand that they are playing politics. There are
all right, Mayor Ahmed, let me just get in here.
There are various areas that are also affected. However, they are appreciative because they understand that they need water and they don't have time to play politics. Let me cite an incident. On Friday when I went to these communities, one community member even told me that he was wearing a short pants and he's got some skin problem on his leg, and you can see that it's a problem that has forever been. Now he's trying to put the blame on me as the mayor or the city that I didn't have water in the past week. This is why my legs are looking like this. Which is a bit unfair. We are a government for the people, and we understand the plight of the people. This is why even today, in the program that I am today, I've just spoken to the MD before this particular interview to say he was requesting that let me prioritize on the issues. I mean, on the areas that do not have water, while you are in region A doing other issues of service delivery. I will send a regional manager that side to assist you. This is the conversation that I've been having with the
okay. All right.
MD prior to this.
Okay, Mayor Ahmed, let me get in there. I mean, I heard what you said, and I think I've made the point, by the way, that just so that you know that it's unfair to judge you because there's been criticism in the Twitter spaces, right? And I've made the point that one can't judge you on the basis of the entire problem. You've only been there for a couple of months or if not weeks, right? But there's a serious problem, right? However, I think your point about you saying that councillors, you're not even talking about people, you're saying councillors are playing cheap politics. So who are these councillors and what sort of cheap politics are they playing?
Look, on Sunday, I went to visit the reservoirs with the MD. I think Councillor in Hefty, I just forgot what number is that, and the Councillor in Robert Shem, they were there with us. And then immediately when myself and the MD, after giving them a context, immediately when we left, they went on Twitter and then they did some videos that we care nothing about the people. So every time we visit those areas, they will mobilize their constituencies. It's only a few group of people that are playing this cheap politics at the expense of the masses. You understand? And it also creates a burden and it makes it difficult to us to even easily implement and focus on what we need to do. Because if we are given a space to do what we're supposed to do, we'll highly appreciate, because there are indeed areas that are appreciative of the work that we are doing. And when we go to those areas, they will welcome us with open arms because they can see that the effort, in as much as it's at a minimal, but there is an effort nonetheless. This is why the water would go and come. It's not like entirely there isn't water and now the people are living in drought. There are areas in the city of Johannesburg that what we are talking about is their daily lived experience. But I'm not saying on the basis that there are people that this crisis is a daily lived experience, so we shouldn't care about the people who are affected now. Where we can assist, we are pushing to assist, and even where we can assist the rainwater, we are pushing as the city of Johannesburg. We are dispatching technicians on a daily basis.
All right, but you've also made the point that rainwater itself is the problem, right? I mean, you've been on record saying that rainwater is the problem as the actual provider. So what's the problem with rainwater and its relationship with the city of Joburg?
So I think mainly or fundamentally, it's the lack of communication from their side, right? However, the challenges that they are facing is the ones that the MD has alluded to: the vandalism, it's called electricity outage, not necessarily load shedding, but when there's vandalism in those areas where they supply us, then automatically they will be affected. It is inherent that or expected that those areas would be definitely affected. And also
so here's a question to you, right? I mean, those problems are there, and I think we must concede that a lot of the problems are caused by the bigger issues of load shedding, electricity issues. We understand that, right? But at some stage, as the city of Joburg, you have to mitigate against it in the same way that people who are unemployed, even at home, they have to make a plan to get food somewhere along the line, right? There's a sense amongst people that the citizens of Joburg are now going to be utterly helpless if they haven't already been helpless, and this issue is going to recur and recur and recur.
You are correct. You are correct. Remember, there's also an issue of aging infrastructure, right? Yes, of course, we have our own issues internally as the city, as Joburg Water. But in this one particular, it emanates mainly from rainwater. So we have limitations to a certain degree. But through an intergovernmental relations, we are working on it. I had requested the team yesterday in the office to write to the Minister of Water and Sanitation a letter to the Minister of Water and Sanitation. And I had also requested the city manager to write to the minister, the MEC of Cocta, so that we can expedite the processes of intervening on these issues, particularly in Johannesburg, because we are a metro. And remember, day in, day out, there's still people who are coming in terms of immigration. And how do we ensure that we put this situation to bed? We need to communicate. We need to refurbish our infrastructure. We've set aside some budget. I think the MP will talk to it.
Okay, I'll get to him in a moment. Mayor Ahmed, very quickly, we're running out of time. Just a quick one, therefore. I mean, you agree that the issue is a recurring thing. That means you're suggesting it's going to happen again, number one. And you also agree that it's unacceptable that citizens are that helpless. So how do you mitigate against that?
Come again?
I was saying, if you agree that people, that it's unacceptable that citizens are helpless and it's a recurring problem, how do you, as the city of Joburg, mitigate against this thing happening? Because you don't want it to happen. It's your city.
As I said yesterday, I've requested the team to write to the Minister of MEC. I mean, the Minister of Water and Sanitation, and the city manager would write to the MEC of Cocta, so that we can put all measures together and resolve this situation once and for all.
Well, let's hope it will be once and for all. I'll come back to you for a final response. Let me get to the MD of Joburg Water once again, Ntshavheni Mukwevho, who said he's got some thoughts on the way forward. So, in terms of the resolving of once and for all, what can you tell us?
Okay, two things. Let's start with the south of Johannesburg. The community in that area, they are aware that the city really invested a lot of money in making sure that they have necessary bulk infrastructure and crown gardens, where the city built a new tower there. So the issue, as the mayor said, what that happened there has nothing to do with things that we can mitigate on our side. So, but in conversation with Rainwater, of course, they've indicated some of the measures that they are doing, which involves also issues of engaging with their with their electricity supplier in Val, who's in Ntshavheni, to make sure that they have some form of partnership in making sure that they work together in the issue of making sure that the power supply to that particular plant is stable. So we are waiting for final announcement regarding that, because as I said, they've indicated that they are working towards having a partnership around running that particular substation, which I'm sure they'll be announcing to the public very soon, to say this is what they're doing in that partnership to make sure that the power supply.
Okay, how much time do we have? How much time do we have before these issues will be resolved? And while that happens, can we say that residents will face the same problems sometime down the line again?
Yes, around that partnership, we should be knowing that within the next month or so, because this, if you recall, this is some of the things that were announced also by the minister about 2 weeks back or so, when he had the media briefing in Pretoria. The second one, on the issue of the Hestel, Crosby and Brixton, as I've indicated, one, we are looking at the interim measure for now, which is issues of linking the Hestel zone with North Cliff zone, which that work should be done by end of next week. We should be done with that particular work. And that will help us in the interim, that whenever there are any issue of bulk supply challenges, that particular zone recovers quick like any other. I must indicate also that you may be asking yourself a question that whenever there's this challenge, why only that particular system gets hit hard? Because there are certain, the way it operates, it relies on the pressure from rainwater. We don't pump at all within that particular system. So in the long term, I mean about 18 months, we've got a project where the city will be investing 402 million. That project was announced by the mayor on Sunday as well. We're investing 402 million to make sure that we are bringing a pump station, so that we don't necessarily rely on pressure from rainwater to get water around the area of Brixton and so on. Thanks.
Okay, appreciate your time. Let's get the last words from the Mayor, Abubakar Thapelo Ahmed. So, a couple of things before we wrap up. One, you've made the point about politicking. I get that, right? Number two, you've also, both of you have spoken about sabotage as well. So if there's sabotage, who's benefiting from the sabotage? Because somebody has to be benefiting, if I can call it that, from a water shedding breakdown in the city.
Come again?
I was saying, if there's sabotage, where these pipelines are sabotage, who's benefiting from the sabotage?
I wouldn't say there is sabotage. I do not know if there is sabotage. I'm in no liberty to answer to the sabotage. But what I know for
in fact, he said so. Your MD of Joburg Water said so, that there is sabotage.
Come again?
Your MD of Joburg Water has said there is sabotage. No?
The MD said it's sabotage.
No.
Okay, let me get clarity. Ntshavheni, is there sabotage or not? You did. I'm pretty sure I heard that.
No, I didn't say sabotage. I say vandalism.
Vandalism. Okay, but
Yes.
I mean, vandalism and sabotage are related, don't you think so?
No, not necessarily.
You don't
I
think
mean,
so?
you know
No,
that
they're not. They're not related.
Okay, got that.
No,
Right.
they're not related.
Let's move on then. There's a sense that from some people, you know, so Mayor Ahmed, you've mentioned councillors who are talking to you and they tweet, right? You've mentioned other people who are saying different things about the running of the city, right? And effectively politicking, right? You mentioned problems with Joburg Water, and you've dropped them a letter. I'm suggesting it's more than a letter. Something needs to happen where there's an indaba that needs to take place like ASAP sometime today, where all the parties get together and say, this is a crisis and we have to resolve it together in the same way we resolve COVID-19 issues.
Yeah. No, we are not limiting the plight to the letter, Mr. Ashraf Garba. Remember, we need to initiate something. We have to start somewhere. All right. Categorically, you, the one who stated that I'm only a couple of weeks in the office. So what we are saying, it's a first step that we are doing. We are going to write to the minister. I've met the minister in one of the water indabas programs that was held in Ekurhuleni. There was also a follow-up on the media briefing that the MD has made reference to. So what we are saying, because the issue or the pressure is escalating in terms of the challenges that we're having in the city of Johannesburg. So we are going to write to the minister. We are not limiting the plight to the letter. We are going to write to the minister through the intergovernmental relations. That letter would clearly state that we need to work because we are the implementers and we are buying water from the Rand Water.
Yeah,
So
I hear you. Sorry, I'm going to interject you only because we don't have much time. I'm suggesting writing is fine. You know, a letter is also writing. You can even WhatsApp him. But I'm suggesting that this requires like a quick, urgent phone call to say something needs to happen. But I think you made the point. Let me wrap up with this, right? So, how long have you been the mayor of the city of Joburg?
I think it's a month and 2 weeks.
Okay, fine. Now, there's been criticism, right? And I've also said, so it's only a few weeks, fine. There's been criticism that the problems we're facing now are precisely because a mayor with 2 seats or 3 seats is the mayor of the city of Joburg. And this is a classic example of a coalition with a small mandate, and therefore you can't deliver. And the criticism is targeted towards you specifically. How do you respond to that?
Look, the truth is the coalition government has worked in other regions of the world. And then our democracy has been tested in the city of Johannesburg precisely. So when we are in the coalition government, none of the parties are an outright majority. This is why parties are interdependent towards each other. So in as much as we might have a bigger minority, all the parties are minorities, we might have a bigger minorities and we might have a minor minorities, which is what our party is constituting. But I am legally elected by council and I'm an incumbent mayor. That means the councillors in the city of Johannesburg, including the parties that are participating in the city of Johannesburg, they have entrusted me, they have faith in me, and they believe that I will deliver. This is where I would respond to the question.
All right. So two things and then So 2 things that we'll wrap up. One, does those that criticize you, right, and the criticism that says the mayor with 2 seats or 3 seats, you see, they can't run the city. Does that criticism, does that hurt you? Does that sting you on a personal level?
It doesn't. It has no bearing on me. I have a mandate to deliver. I am under oath to serve the residents of Johannesburg, whether in opposition or whether in government. I have that fiduciary duty to serve the residents of Johannesburg. So the opinion, people will always have the opinion, and in politics we always have opposition. So the least that they could do is to utter those words. Maybe they think that it will diminish or decrease from my well-being, but I'm not deterred. I am focused, and I believe that I will deliver.
Okay,
To the
and the last thing here, right? The last thing we know. I mean, you head up a coalition. That's why you're the mayor, and your party Al Jamaa has got 2 seats and maybe 1 proportional representation. I get that, but in practical terms, just so that we understand it, right? Do you therefore work representing the party with 2 or 3 seats, or in reality, in the coalition, when you have problems like issues around water or electricity or anything else, in fact, that can you confirm that in fact all the parties that put you in place, and even those that didn't as a council, that you all sit down together and you make decisions together, or have I got it wrong?
We have a mayoral committee. So our mayoral committee is constituted of different parties, which politically and administratively we work together as a team, and they are delegated. They serve at the behest of the executive mayor. And we have a political management committee where we discuss political affairs independent from government.
Okay. And so therefore, it's a consultative process. Appreciate your time, both of you, Mayor Abubakar Thapelo Ahmed, the executive mayor of the city of Johannesburg, and then the Joburg Water MD, Ntshavheni Mukwevho, who made the point that it's 7 out of 10 in terms of Joburg's water crisis. So I call it water shedding. Sadly, we've reached a watershed moment as far as the city of Joburg is concerned in dealing with water. Can we move on beyond that watershed moment? And can I say it, cross the Rubicon and to something a lot more where the water doesn't just trickle, but it actually floods in a very, very kind way? Well, it's more to come. Your thoughts, your comments are always welcome. We'll pick up on other important issues right after this.